Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick. Welcome to Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on Earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibilities in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. Listen to their stories, hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. My guest on this week's episode is Helen Nachintu. She's a holistic health coach and mentor, healing facilitator and researcher. Since the outbreak of this pandemic, it has become increasingly obvious that the health of society is far from the concerns of those offering their supposed solutions. Anything that questions the mainstream is censored, and as a result, people are suffering. During our conversation, Helen offers some natural options for you to explore. You should, of course, work in tandem with a practitioner who will be able to tailor a treatment protocol specifically for you. So as always, I begin by asking my guests, HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel your most HER?
I tend to feel my most HER when I'm doing what I love doing the most, which is helping people that need my help. Just caring for humanity in general.
Perfect, thank you. And this is your second time around, Helen. And the reason I invited you back is, one, we had an amazing chat the first time around. But what I think is we really need to start to be very serious and very intentional about how we're taking care of ourselves. What we're seeing out in the world now is a health crisis that is kind of switching into something, and the moves that are being made make it very apparent that the intention and the purpose of that has very little to do with health. In fact, it has zero to do with health. But as a result of what is going on, people are suffering in many different ways. And I think for the most part, our education with regards to how to care for ourselves has been so scant. It's like you get like the bare minimum if you're lucky, and a lot of the time mostly people only ever really find out about the best way to care for themselves if they take it upon themselves to do the research, to do the work, and then apply those things to themselves, which is what we should do anyway. But our education system has been such that we expect to be given everything, so there's a lot of learning that's going on with that as well. So in the interim, before people really kind of get down to understanding that the onus is on them to do the work and apply the work, be disciplined and consistent in order to have good health, I just thought it would be useful to have you speak about different aspects, and in particular, physical health and what we can do to really optimize our physical health, particularly with the coming winter, with potential reemergence of variations of things that weren't there in the first place. It's a completely different conversation, but there we go. Also, various reactions that people might be having to the solution that they've been given for that reason, and what we can do. So if we start on physical health, and then we can go to mental and spiritual after, what can you, in your experience, and what have you seen, and what have you been able to help people with regards to physical health? If you first start with the virus as it is, and then potentially what has happened with the cure for that.
Well, if we talk about the V, and you were talking about, people need to go out there and get an education about what's actually going on. The first thing is people need to question what's going on, first of all, because even the education out there is a little bit dodgy and quite questionable, to be honest, right? So when we talk about physical health in terms of, are you talking about people that are recovering from the V, or, you know,
I'd say look at it both ways. First and foremost, if we can think about prevention, because our bodies are miraculous, and we have a system that is in place in order to combat any kind of attack if you keep it optimal. So if you can give information on the best practices to maintain an effective and efficient immune system, and then after that go to, if anyone does succumb to that, how they can manage that.
Okay, so really maintaining your immune system is pretty easy, but people need to be committed. Commitment to your own health should be a number one priority for you. Otherwise, you know, if you're not looking after your body, don't expect your immune system to kind of, you know, serve you in the way that it should. It's no different from, I don't know, you have a car, right? That car needs maintenance every so often. You have to take it for an MOT, and your body really is not that much different. Okay, so it's not metal and all that kind of thing, but you know, you hear the gist of what I'm saying. It's a system that needs maintaining. And so with that, in terms of prevention from getting anything, well, catching like the seasonal flu type of thing or anything else, really, you've got to look at detoxing your body every so often. You know, I'm not saying that people should be detoxing every week, because that's not particularly healthy either, because you can throw your body into a real a state of being overly alkaline, which that state's not good for your body either. So just, you know, maintaining a good balance of what you're eating. If you are, let's say you're a meat eater, lessen the meat that you're having, especially in this day and age when we don't even know what's going into, you know, our meat in the supply chain. It's being injected with all sorts of things, and we don't know how that is actually interacting with our bodies. So I would say that if you can, literally tailor back on your meat, eat more vegetables, eat more fresh. And I know we are approaching the winter here in the UK. So when I say eat more fresh, everyone's going, you know, I need hot food. And that's okay too. But it's still good to have, you know, that balance of having fresh foods in terms of a smoothie. You know, I'm not saying go and eat a salad in the winter, because most people don't like doing things like that. But certainly juicing fresh, having fresh smoothies, you know, that's not so bad. So it's really about overall looking at how you are eating in order to maintain your immune system. And in terms of foods that you should be eating in general, as I say, you know, vegetables. During the winter, we have lots of teas as well, don't we? So, you know, you can do a combo of star anise tea with, what is it? What do I make mine with? I make mine with cinnamon and turmeric as well. And that's quite nice, but get the balance right, because it could go the other way and just taste yuck. And you can add, you know, a little honey to that. And generally, if you maintain a diet that, actually, I don't like the word diet. If you maintain a lifestyle that balances out what you're eating, go for a 50-50 if you can, in terms of raw and cooked foods. And obviously, you know, drink plenty of water, take your supplements. Magnesium is brilliant, absolutely brilliant for almost everything, if it's taken correctly and in the right doses. And of course, I'm not going to be giving out any dosages because it would be irresponsible of me to do so. Different people out there have different health conditions and different health needs. So I wouldn't really be able to give sort of, dosages of what they could have. So by way of prevention, that's something that people can start to do and start to look at. And also just, look at what's actually going into your foods, the labels on these so-called long shelf life foods, which, you buy and you put in your cupboards for the best part of 12 months, 2 years. What exactly are they putting into that to make it last that long, and how is it interacting with your body? So as you were saying before, an education is important, but I also feel like it's more of a re-education because the stuff that we've been told that is good for us is now turning out that it's actually not that good for us. And I think one other thing I want to add to the maintenance of the immune system is that eating habits. It's really, really important to curb your eating habits. If you are this person if you're an individual that has breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you are already over consuming. Our bodies were not really meant for that. And that's something that was just brought in purely for consumerism. The more food they sell us, the more money they make, the sicker we get because it literally slows down our metabolism if we're not giving ourselves enough time in between eating to literally passing through what we ate before we eat the next meal, that should just be general common sense out there. But unfortunately, many of us have been taught to just eat by the clock. It's 7 o'clock, it's breakfast. And it's crazy because I see people having breakfast when they're not even hungry. Right. And then, it's midday, it's 1 o'clock, it's lunch, it's 7 p.m., it's dinner. People need to stop eating by the clock because that just really, really slows down your metabolism. And especially when you're going through the winter, because we do the least amount of activity in winter. So you really want to be watching how you are consuming your food. And also, if, eating in the evening, make sure you leave at least a 3 to 4 hour gap before you go to bed. Again, just for easier digestion, because if you eat and you go to bed straight away, well, guess who's going to be rolling around in bed all night because, you're trying to sleep while your body's trying to digest the food that you just ate, and the two just don't work out at all.
You mentioned magnesium. Are there any other supplements that you would recommend people investigate and see how that works for like a personal protocol for immune system support?
There is. You can have pine needle tea. That's really good. And especially around about this time whereby a lot of people are getting respiratory issues and, as I say, kind of flu symptoms and things like that. Pine needle tea is really good because it contains obviously antioxidants, but it also contains suramin. Now, the first time I heard about suramin was when Dr. Sherry Tenpenny was doing an interview with Jason something or other. I think he's Canadian. Yeah. And he'd literally put out this really short clip. And I watched it and she mentioned the word suramin. Suramin, never heard of it. So I went off researching it. And then within my research, I actually found out that suramin is actually contained in the pine needle tea as well, which is amazing, amazing. Also, on top of that, people can make their own hydroxychloroquine at home,
Perish the thoughts.
Yeah. They say, what? You can do that? You know, and this is what I'm saying. It's about a re-education. If you're going to wait for the government to, if you're just going to sit on the BBC and wait for the evening news and, you know, wait for the government to tell you how to look after yourself, you're not going to be around that much longer, you know? So you kind of have to go off the beat and track and do your own research and, you know, work with what resonates with you. Even though I am giving out like all these different supplements and things that you can take, it's not always for everybody. So you will know what's going to work for you and what isn't. And I highly recommend that people do a bit more research in depth.
Mm. And it's interesting, you know, when you were just talking about the pine needle tea and things like that, I remember my mom and my aunts always used to like have like surrogacy come back from Jamaica, and they always had like a pot on the stove of, they're just like boiling up this thing and drinking it. And at the time you're young and they're giving you this liquid and it's so bitter that you can't handle it. But they were robust. I don't remember people going down with all of these flus and things. And it just, I don't ever remember it happening. I really don't. Like they went down with other things, but not these seasonal issues that seem to be almost expected now. And like to the point where flu has actually got its own season. You call it flu season. Why?
Yeah.
We should celebrate flu season. Hey.
Maybe I should actually answer that in the mental health section when we get to that. I can most definitely answer why we call it the flu season, but we shall wait until we get there. Other things that people can take in terms of vitamins, obviously, vitamin C is really, really good. And vitamin C, vitamin D, and also things like moringa. One of my favorite, absolute favorite herbs is, well, it's actually a superfood first, and then it's a herb, but it literally treats so many different diseases and ailments and all sorts of things out there. So it's really worth having for immune system repair, recovery, restoration. Also matcha. If people can get hold of matcha, and you know, you can go online and look up all these vitamins that I'm talking about and supplements I'm talking about, and you can see for yourself what the benefits are. Because if I have to go into detail of each and every single one, it's going to take forever.
No, it's good. It's good that you're saying that. My present protocol is B complex, so it has a mixture, and there's high dose of vitamin C mixed up in that, zinc, quercetin, and D drops. I think that's it. For the most part, that's kind of my base level. I'm just doing a bit of research on melatonin actually, to see whether I need to kind of bring that in. But for the most part, anyway, if I think about things like personally, I feel fine. I had maybe when the weather changed, or the clock was just last week, but when I noticed that the weather changed, like towards the end of September, there was a day or two when I felt the change in the air, and it was that feeling where you can feel stuff creeping, and you're just
I had one of those days too.
You're like, it's not going to happen, and we just went and we just blasted down the echinacea. Like, it's not coming. Like, you can hover around the edges, but we're not doing this. Because, you know, it just doesn't go. And here I am on, you know, no more the worse for it.
That's really good. Sorry, on the zinc, on the magnesium part, can I just briefly cover something on that is really, really important? People should really be aware of. There are, I think it's about 7 different types of magnesium. So very often when I say to people, you know, take magnesium, they said, yeah, I'm already taking it. And I'm thinking, well, something's amiss, because if you were taking magnesium on a regular, you wouldn't have that issue. And often when I ask them, what type of magnesium are you taking? What's the combination? And they don't know. So more often than not, they're either just taking one type or 2 or 3. So there is a really good doctor that I follow, Dr. Carolyn Dean. I'm not sure if you're aware of her.
Not me, no.
She has her own magnesium formula, and I've found so far that it's the best on the market. And especially for people that don't like taking supplements, they can get the Remag magnesium. And she also has another solution called Remite. Remite combines, I think it's 8 different it's got like 8 different, you know what, I haven't got it here in front of me, so I don't want to give a list that perhaps isn't on the bottle. But what I'm saying is the Remag on its own is really, really good. More so for people that don't like taking the tablets. And because in tablet form, it's very difficult to actually get that combination. So you can just a couple of drops in, you know, your water, pint of water, and just sip it. Whatever you do, if you're taking Remag for the first time, either one, make sure that you follow the instructions on the bottle to the T, because you know how some people just think, oh, well, you know, I'll just add a little extra in there, right? It can actually make you throw up because it's so concentrated. You only need small amounts of it, and you need to be sipping it as per the instructions on the bottle. And very often when people take magnesium, they're often taking a type of magnesium that upsets their stomach and makes them want to go to the toilet. And then when they do that, they're like, no, magnesium doesn't agree with me. Well, I can tell you for now, it does agree with you. It's just cleaning out the crap. So, you know, just keep going with it, and, you know, your stomach will settle. And if it hasn't settled within, let's say, 2 days, 2 to 3 days, then obviously it's not right for you. Stop and try a different formula.
Oh, good. Okay. And then also, if you have anything to add with regards to people who have experienced adverse reactions from the juice.
Yeah, I love how you call it the juice.
So many names for it, so I'm trying to keep it pretty.
I think, yeah, the jabby juice. Okay, so is there anything that people can do? Yes, you can have detox baths. There are a number of detox baths out there. I had promised to have all this information, the protocols, on my website by now, which should have launched on the 31st of October. But I'm just still working on a couple of things. But these protocols will be up there for people to actually have a look at. You know, you can have the borax detoxes. You can actually take ivermectin. Yeah. Yeah,
which is just crazy days. Yeah,
it is crazy days. But there have been studies that have been done which actually show that ivermectin helps against the graphene oxide that's in the juice. It helps to break it down. Also, other things that you can do, I'm just looking at my notes here, and you can do CDS protocols, and you can make CDS.
CDS.
So it's a chlorite and chlorine dioxide solution. So that's CDS. In other words, it's a water purifier, but taken in the right quantities, it has the ability to clean out your immune system, clean out your bloods, clean out your body, and really repair the immune system. It also has the ability to break down the graphene oxide, including MMS. CDS is just another variation of the MMS. There are some differences, but overall, they are both water purifiers. And I remember, I don't know whether we are supposed to talk about the, the one that is still president in the United States.
I mean, we can, geez.
Keyword.
I've kind of, I've kind of pulled back from, I tell you what, I've pulled back from politics simply because it's been 1 year, well, as we're recording, 1 year and a day since the whole pantomime pick and choose game went on. And that whole thing. And I just can't, personally, I've just kind of pulled away from it. And of course, like the other work that I do, we still do report on geopolitical things, but I'm kind of being like, in the scheme of things, there's going to come a point that to kind of transcend the matrix in itself means transcending the geopolitical, whichever side.
I'm just going to dive in and get straight to the point. When Trump was president, he mentioned that he mentioned CDS, right? Chlorine dioxide. And everybody went, not everybody, but, there were people that really went down heavy on them, saying, he was stupid, he was foolish, to be advising them to be taking bleach. Yeah. What kind of fool tells you to drink bleach? But basically that's what he was referring to. And, that has the ability to help people overcome like so many diseases. I can't even begin to reel them off the list. That's really good.
Yeah. It's a shame that things get so political, because people will literally turn away from the truth because they don't like the figure, and it just, that's what I'm saying, it gets a bit pantomimish. So moving on to the next point I want to touch on with you is mental well-being. And if we think of what is being played out right now, everyone, like even the strongest among us, and probably even the ones that seem the strongest among us, are going through it, man. You know what I mean? And it's not only in relation to this whole the political side of things, and then also the health side of things, and then but also is if you've started to do research, if you feel that you're aware of what is coming and where this is going, it's this kind of, you can see the train coming down the tracks, right?
Yeah.
And you're trying to, at best, just like kind of call out to people, go, prepare, the sky is falling. And one, you look crazy, so everyone looks crazy, and no one likes to be called, you don't like your mental capacity to be questioned or even ridiculed like that. So that in itself is something that you're, okay, I'm going to keep pushing forward and keep pushing forward. And then, of course, with everything that we are aware of in terms of the jabby jab, is we're seeing people around us that we care about take it with no awareness of what that potentially could do to them over the next, either within this winter or just going forward. And the thing is, the information that stacks up to keep on telling us that this is not a good thing is overwhelming. But if you're only kind of like drinking from the mainstream cup, you've just got one story. Whereas on the other side of it, the numbers are crazy. It's getting brutal out there. And it's almost like we are preparing to witness a bloodbath, the likes of which we have never experienced. I don't even think you've ever like read about such things in history. So from your point of view, is things that we can do, practices, if there is anything like preparations, supplements, like non-pharmaceutical, of course, to assist us with our mental health as we move through this period of time, which I think is going to be the most challenging bump before we get onto the other side of this.
Yeah. Well, mental health wise, the first thing I would say is be open-minded. There are two sides to every story. Be respectful of the other side of the story. See things from somebody else's perspective as well. Just as much as, the truther community believe that something's happening one way and the other side believes something's happening the other way, we all believe in our own bits and pieces of information that we're getting access to. It doesn't necessarily make us right or wrong. However, look at both sides of the story, and until you can do that, I literally feel like people are going to suffer with a lot of mental health issues, because then people are just going to be at loggerheads. In other words, it's called compassion. Be compassionate for others and what they are going through. And yeah, there is so much information out there to the point where I think even like in the truther communities, people are just looking at information thinking, well, you know, is that right? Is this right? I feel like we've got to that stage where you just have to go within and practice self-love. Definitely practice self-love. If you want to keep your mental health in check, this is one of the beautiful ways to do it, because, you know, with self-love, you just know that other people's opinions of you don't define who you are, right? With self-love, you get to understand that everybody's entitled to an opinion. It doesn't have to be true to you, even though it's true to them, you know? And then it's kind of like, okay, so we have a difference of opinion. How do we move on from this? I've known like families literally split up over this. Like the families are in two different camps, and you're thinking, rah, wow. You know, how did we even get to this? As I say, you know, compassion for each other and what we're going through individually is through this journey, because everybody is experiencing their own challenges on this journey, and you don't know what the next person is facing as a challenge. You know, whether you're in the truther community or the other side of, you know, the coin or whatever you want to call it, you don't know what the other person's going through. You don't know what that person in the truther community has gone through in order to literally really stand their ground and strong. You know, there is a whole bunch of mental health issues that's come with that, I'm sure. And then on the other side also, you don't know why, you know, somebody has gone out and got the jabby juice. It could be for a whole bunch of reasons. And what I am finding the biggest reason for this is fear. Right. So on one side, you have people that are just totally fearless, completely ready to face whatever comes with their decisions, and are really standing their ground and standing their power, right? And on the other side, you've got people who, without being disrespectful to anybody, you have people who are indoctrinated into the system as we know it, right? Into the matrix. And they basically, their general fears from everything that I have seen stem from, you know, if I don't have the jabby juice, I'm going to lose my job. If I don't have this, they've been genuinely led to believe that if they don't take this thing, they are going to be spreading it to somebody else. Right. And, you know, as far as we know, there's no truth in that whatsoever. In the same way that if somebody has the flu, right? I'm going to call it that for now, because COVID is a type of flu. Right. Whether or not people want to admit that, you know, it's entirely up to them. Everybody's entitled to believe in whatever they want to believe in. I really do believe that a COVID is a type of flu. It has the same symptoms, it's just a different variation, right? I've known people who've had it and they've recovered from it and they're still alive. You know, they've had it once, they've had it twice, whatever. They've got through it, right? So where was I going with this? I kind of lost the trail a little bit. So yes, so if we think about it as flu, okay, and even though it's a different type of flu, at the end of the day, doing mindful practices to strengthen your mind and remind yourself of who you truly are within this entire system, shall we call it, is really, really important, because it's not until you do that you actually really realize that whatever reality you're seeing in the world right now, you have created that. And I'm going to speak about this with the flu and colds, common colds in mind. I have been around several people in my life that have had really bad flu, forget about, long before COVID, the latest variation came around. I've spent time with people who have been really, really bad with flu, nursed them through it. And they'll be saying to me, well, no, don't come over because you're going to catch it. I said, no, love, that's your disease. You can keep that one to yourself. My mind doesn't quite work the way yours does, because I'm not saying that I'm superior to anybody, but what I'm saying is that I've put the time in to really get to know who I am and go within, condition your mind, strengthen your mind, and also listen to your intuition. We have this innate system, GPS, built within us, which is called your intuition. And yet, other people call it a gut feeling, whatever you want to call it. We all have an inner GPS. But unless you're listening to the guidance of your inner GPS, you are going to get caught up in whatever is going on around you within the system. And it is going to, you will succumb to major mental health challenges, I would say. So doing things like yoga, meditations, listening to solfeggio frequencies. It is solfeggio, isn't it?
Solfeggio, yeah, just
solfeggio.
Yeah.
You have to excuse me. I speak Luganda as well, so sometimes I get my words mixed up, especially if they're not words that I use on a regular basis. So yeah, solfeggio frequencies, because again, when it comes to the mind, we have been so conditioned through the frequencies that we're tuning into through our radio waves and even microwaves and, the TV have all been set at a particular frequency for a reason. And I know there are people out there that call this a conspiracy, but you only have to do the research, dig a little deeper, and you will find the information that you need to confirm what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And, like everything else, it's all down to your own discernment, isn't it?
But then the discernment takes that journey for you to discover. So there's always that as well, which is another thing. But when, like you say, when you get there and when you start to kind of reconnect with who it is that you are after multiple times of being knocked left, right and center, and you always come back to the same point, you actually find that like you say, once you're there, it doesn't really matter what people say or think, really. You just kind of pull back and just watch it go on and go, okay, but it's not going to happen like that for me.
Yeah, because you have chosen to completely step out of the fear. And that's another thing that people need to realize, is that everything in life is a choice, right? And every choice will come with a consequence. Now, I'm not saying it's been easy for the truthers out there to step out, and just basically stand by what they believe is going on and stand by their own truth. No, it hasn't been easy. A lot of us have lost friends, we've lost family members. We're being ostracized by our own communities because we are conspiracy theorists. So it's been tough. Everybody's had their own challenges through this, I'm sure.
Yeah. But the saying is the time between your latest conspiracy and the truth is like shortening. It used to be years and months, and now it's just a matter of weeks, and people go, oh, this is happening, no, and then here it is. It's a crazy quickening.
So many rabbit holes, that's why.
Yeah. And so there comes a point where like you hear a conspiracy and you're like, just like you try to emphasize, there might be a grain of truth in it. There usually is. And then the deeper you dig, you can see where these things come from. Like everything that people were poo-pooing from, last year, when people coming out going, there's going to be mandatory Vs, there's going to be passports, there's going to be all of this. And this has got a different agenda. They're trying to push for a cashless society. And all of these things that sounded like the biggest stories here we are, you know, like here we are, and there's so much information for if people want to go, do you know what, let me just kind of suspend my disbelief,
Yeah.
and just really look at it and listen to, if you don't, the place to go if you really want to find out the truth or the validity of any conspiracy is look at the money trail. Look at where the money is going and coming from.
Yeah. Follow the money.
Follow the money. That it really is that easy. So, at the base of it, like humans or whoever's running the show are kind of like quite simple in what they're doing these things for. Control and money.
Totally. Do you know what? I saw a really interesting meme the other day, and I thought, I like that. And it said, conspiracy theorists will be the historians of the future.
Isn't it?
It's interesting.
Yeah. Just got to think about how you want to tell how you want to tell your story. And I think also what may be difficult for people to it'll be interesting to see how things play out and how people retell it in years to come, you know, especially ones who are just poo-pooing the whole idea. What their dinner table talk is going to be 5 years down the line. You know, they'd be like, yeah, I saw it coming, I knew it was a thing, and you'd be, you know, and especially if it's someone you know, you'd be sitting there just like, oh,
you know what, don't even go there, Carol, because that's already happened to me several times. And these are the people that call me out as being a conspiracy theorist at the very beginning, and I just looked at them, and then later on in the year, in fact it was early this year, something happened and they saw it in the news, and I said, oh yeah, I always knew that, and blah blah. I said, listen, that's the same thing we argued about not so long ago.
Isn't it crazy?
And I know that, you know, I say let's have compassion for each other, but you know, sometimes it's just not there. And you just have to say it as it is, depending on who you're having that conversation with, you know?
Yeah. But an interesting thing to think of as well, like, you know, we can call people on their BS, or we can have compassion, but either way, like, it's us to kind of do the bigger thing. But either way, like, they will know that they're lying. On the inside, they will know that they're lying. They will know that, you know, if anyone was to scroll back further enough on their Facebook feed, that they were the ones that are jumping on other people's stories and like throwing all stuff at them as well. Because even my friend today got on this morning, she like called me and said, oh, I've just put this thing up, and then this other person's come and tried to debunk it with this like mainstream stuff. She's like, I really want to put something up, but I'm not going to. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Let's just like leave it there hanging in the wind, because you just don't get out of those things. If you spend the rest of your day on Facebook, it's not worth it.
I know. And you know, it's interesting that you should say that, because I was just thinking the other thing that people can do for their mental health is come on Facebook. Either come on Facebook or reduce the amount of time that you're spending on Facebook and other social media platforms that are likely to trigger you in a more sort of like, you know, angry, negative, emotional way. I've kind of taken a step back from Facebook, because I'm seeing a lot of things there. And, you know, it's also saying something and it triggers you, and you think, don't react. Take a breath, take a breather, and ask yourself, why are you being triggered by that post? You know, every trigger is an opportunity for us to learn more about ourselves, rather than point the finger at the other person, more times than not. But, you know, it's just one of those things. Take a break from social media if you can, or reduce the amount of time on social media. And I would say mass media in general, really, because there is so much out there that is just incredibly confusing. And it doesn't do anything for anybody's mental health at the moment, given the fact that most of us know that the media are telling a whole bunch of lies about so much, which is only creating to what I believe is going to be a massive, massive wave of people with mental health challenges and issues coming up.
For sure. And also another thing to bear in mind, if you just with social media and the space that you go into, this like altered reality where you're pulled in emotionally and you're in this world and everyone's fighting, is kind of look at where Facebook is trying to take themselves. Like Facebook and Instagram and all of those things are beta versions of this metaverse that they want to create. And if you watch that, I'm sorry, if you watch that little thing that he put out, you should be frightened that that is what is in mind for you. And I was watching, I got a link to just kind of watching other people comment on it. I think it was an Amazing Polly presentation, and she really broke it down. But in her comments, someone had put about a film, and I've watched a little bit of it, but I'm going to go back and try and watch the whole thing. It's I think it's like a kind of early 80s film with Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood called Brainstorm. And Brainstorm, like the initial premise, I haven't got into where the film goes. The initial premise of it is basically a virtual reality world where you put on a headset and you go into this altered space where somebody else can program the experiences that you have. And you've got the board of whole board of directors sitting there just thinking that they're on a merry-go-round, or they're being kind of like lavishly served by beautiful women, or they're eating something. So in 80-something, you know, I want to watch that film. I do want to kind of pay attention to that film, because I just saw it. I saw the trailer and then I found the film. I'm like, I need to watch this. It's interesting. It really is.
I would like to watch that as well.
Yeah. Brainstorm. I'll send you a link to it as well.
Yes, please. Yeah. Please do.
Yeah, because it'd be interesting to find out what you think about it. And then last but certainly not least is to just talk about spiritual wellness and how we can stay spiritually aligned during these times when we have forces that I personally believe are not of spirit and are not of good, working their damnedest to pull us off center. What are you doing, and what can you share with everyone in order to kind of help with staying on course?
Well, basically, I'm doing a lot of meditations, because when something really triggers me, I just think, why has that triggered me? You know, meditate, cleanse. Affirmations are so important. Whenever you find yourself in a situation where you're feeling, you know, triggered or angry or whatever negative emotion it is that you're going through, there are so many affirmations out there that you can actually use to, you know, center you again and ground you. Speaking of grounding, go out and like literally just take your shoes off and go out and ground yourself in the mud somewhere, you know. And if you haven't got that, just take your shoes off, take your socks off, or whatever it is, and do it at home, whether it's on the carpet or on a concrete floor, whatever it is. You know, you're still connecting with the earth in some way. And, you know, Gaia, it's so important to just stay grounded, stay connected. And I'm going to talk about hugging trees, because that's so important. Yeah. And people don't realize the importance of hugging trees and how that really helps you to like just heal from within. You know, there's healing that takes place that you don't even realize is taking place, but it's happening in the background, you know? So there's just a number of things that people can do like that spiritually to ground themselves. And also just watch your energy. Watch where you take your energy. I kind of feel like, you know, some of us have decided, well, I certainly have. I'll talk about me. I've made the decision to only interact with people that I know are going to be open-minded. If you're not open-minded, I feel like you're not really worth my time, you know, in a social setting kind of thing. I'm not saying as a coach and what I do, but, you know, socializing, if we're not going to have a two-way conversation about a topic, there's just no point, right? So stay away from situations like that, because all you're going to invite is basically energy vampires. You will walk into a situation and you will feel like you've just been eaten alive. You will walk away with no energy whatsoever. So you're depleting your energy. When you deplete your energy, it directly attacks your immune system through, excess cortisol and stuff like that. So it's something to consider. Your external environment. Look at the people around you. Who is it? Just when you are with someone, study your energy, study how your body is responding to this person. Take note of how you feel when you walk away from this person and they're no longer in your space. That is a clear indicator to tell you who is draining you like an energy vampire. Like, seriously, spiritually, sage if you need to, right? I know that there are people out there that think sage is this, woo-woo thing. No, sage has been used by our ancestors for thousands and thousands of years. This is healing, natural healing medicine to our energy bodies. And sometimes people forget that we do have an energy body, a light body, a celestial body. There's like multiple bodies around us. And I guess for some people, that's a little bit too much to take in. But just remember that we have an energy around us. Our auric sphere needs protecting. And if we don't protect that, it's going to make us sick in some form or another.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that. These are useful points and all the things that people are not talking about in terms of how to go through this, because it is a battle for us to kind of maintain ourselves on all of those different levels. And so far, the majority of people seem to just be going on like physical health and going down the way that isn't actually going to give them physical health. But you can see how if they are able to address like mental and spiritual aspects of themselves, it then kind of raises not only your physical health, but also your mental and spiritual health, that gives you discernment and strength, so that you can actually, like, especially when you're saying about energy, you can notice something and go, something about that's not right. And you may not even know what it is, like the actual thing. Yeah. But it will be like, I'm just going to sit with the thing that something is not right. And that doubt is enough for me to just take a pause at that point in time. And sometimes pausing is good, like, and wait for the moment for it to come to you as well. I can speak from my own personal experience when sometimes you like trying to make something happen, like if I think October was just treacle, I was trying to make stuff happen all the time, like, why is it not happening, why is it not going? And then November hit and it just literally just rolled so quick.
Did we also not have a retrograde in October?
There was some going on that it felt for a while. And, the thing that I wanted to do, because it's so very easy, and, the memes go out about like blaming it on retrograde, where I'm just like, I'm not going to blame it on anything. I'm not even going to look at all of those astrological things. So I deliberately stopped listening to the people that I would normally listen to, that would do like my monthly or the thing. I'm like, I don't want to be influenced by they could give me a reason why I want to blame what's going on. I'm just going to go, I'm going through it, and I'm not going to blame it on anything other than I'm going through it for some reason.
And that's like the most beautiful thing as well, when you realize that you have to take responsibility and not blame other people for whatever is going on in your world at the time, because at some point you took the action that resulted in what you're seeing. And I was going to touch on asteroids and Mercury retrograde and stuff like that. With Mercury retrograde, historically, we've been conditioned to think that, it's terrible and this is going to stop and that's going to stop. No, use discernment. If you know that a certain thing is going to be affected by the retrograde, then be mindful of it. But approach it differently, plan ahead, or whatever it is that you need to do. Because I still do believe that whatever happens up there definitely affects us down here. It doesn't have to be negative for us. You know, we can still turn these things into a positive, and it's all about your mindset and where you're at. And, you know, if you're not aware of certain planets going retrograde and how that's likely to affect you, that can be quite difficult as well. It can be quite challenging, because in October we had, was it 6 planets in retrograde?
That's why I deliberately wasn't looking, because I'm like, something's going on, but I'm not even going to like validate it with anyone's information. I'm just going to be like, this is my icky experience. This is what it is, because I could go like, oh, that's why. And blamed it on all the things, but then I'm just like, let it be what it is. I'm not going to look. I'm not going to listen to anyone's version of events, even though I'm sure there's some stuff. I'm just going to make it be very personal, so that I can't just outsource the blame of it, going, oh, well, look, the moon's like this. This is why. I'm like, no, let me just kind of try and work out what it is from within. And to be honest, I never really came to any conclusion other than just kind of sitting with it. And literally, like I said, like November came and pop, other side. Like literally, like I woke up and went, oh, it's a different day. And it just went like, you know, without anything. So it was really interesting that, there was probably a lot going on, but I couldn't name it, because I tried not to kind of get, I didn't want to blame it on anything other than this is what's going on.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, I was thinking, even though all of that was going on and stuff, and you decided you weren't going to follow that, the people that do follow that to the T, a message to them and everybody else is, remember to breathe. It's like, and when you say to people, remember to breathe, they kind of give you this some of them give you this fluoridated look, like, what do you mean breathe? I am breathing, or else I wouldn't be alive. And then you start to explain it and say, you know, different ways of breathing enhance different parts of you, and, you know, give clearance to different parts of your brain and stuff like that. And then, you know, they start to get it. So I'm not trying to be condescending by saying, remember to breathe. I get that. Everybody's breathing and we're all alive. But, you know, are we breathing correctly for whatever challenge that we're going through, you know, currently? When we talk about mental health, there is a breathing technique that I learned from India, which is Nada Sudani, or Nadi Shuddhi. So depending on where in India you come from, they have different names for it. And it's basically just clearing your aura, cleansing you, and clearing up your respiratory system. So it's very useful for people who may be going through some mental health challenges and are finding it really difficult to sleep, because that's the number one bugger, right? When you've got things going on in your mind, it's so incredibly difficult to sleep sometimes. So I always recommend that you either there are a couple of things that you can do leading up to your bedtime. Have a glass of water at least an hour before you go to bed. You know, you'll be fine. You won't be getting up to go to the toilet every 2 seconds. Most people think, oh, no, I'm not drinking water before I go to bed. That's why I say an hour before, because while you're sleeping, obviously, this is the time that your body is repairing and restoring while you're resting. So it's really good to do that. But also, before you go to sleep, do the Nadi Shuddhi practice. You can even just do 5 minutes of it, or 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you feel. But it just has this really, really natural way of literally calming the mind, centering you, and just really making you feel really grounded. It's so nice. It's so nice. Even just talking about it now, I can feel myself just calming down.
So before we wrap up, have you got any last minute tips, practices, anything that you can share for people as we go into winter and want to come out stronger on the other side?
I guess for me, always the number one self tip is self-love. Self-love, it's everything. And it comes in so many different forms. It covers everything. It covers stuff that we've just spoken about. It covers your environment. Who have you got in your environment? Who are the people you need to drop moving forward for your own mental health? What food are you putting into your body? How is that food impacting you? Body-wise and mentally. If you're eating food and straight after eating your food, you just want to go to sleep, and you do go to sleep, Houston, we have a problem, right? So that's usually an early onset of diabetes, either that or you just overly consumed too many carbs. So as I was saying before, everything in moderation, not expecting people to be sort of staunch veggies, vegans, or whatever, just kind of balance things out, ebb and flow is a really good way to be. And also remember to be compassionate towards other people. I feel like for me, it's done wonders for my mental health and just overall self-care, because why would you want to be losing sleep over what somebody else said? When you love yourself enough, why would you want to torture yourself in that way? You just wouldn't. You just let it go. Because the other thing is, with emotions, especially now that we are actually already going through this huge spate of people experiencing mental health issues, and it's only going to get worse. With that, obviously comes all of these emotions, right, which are not necessarily nice for us. And these emotions, if we don't deal with them, they have a tendency to bury themselves within our organs and cause ourselves, issues. If you're not voicing what you need to voice out of the fear of something, guess what? You could cause yourself a thyroid issue. If you are living in fear, you could cause yourself a kidney issue. There is Dr. Bradley Nelson has a course that he does on I think it's called the body code. And he basically has this chart that shows you the organs and all the emotions that bury themselves within those organs. So, and this is how I work with my clients, in that if somebody comes to me and they've got an ailment, an illness in the body, I really look at them holistically. The first thing I want to know about is their environment, right? Second thing I want to know about is what they're eating. And third thing I want to know about is, who have you still not forgiven? Who are you mad at? Because that's a big one that literally embeds itself all over, like literally all over. It's a big one. So in terms of practices of forgiveness, I highly recommend the Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian practice for forgiveness. And just because you do it once, doesn't mean that that's it. You may have to do it for each and every single person that you're mad at, right? But, all of this will really greatly contribute towards having a better immune system through whatever we're about to go through. I can't even put a name to it anymore. It's that bad. Who knows what's going to happen next? At this point, I don't want to predict anything other than what I'm already seeing, that there's huge mental health issues with people. And I shared a story with you before we started this in terms of, and how do you handle it? It's just crazy. We're going through crazy times, but those of us that are determined to get through it will work on our mental health challenges. We will work on our lifestyle changes. Take each day as it comes. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to literally do all the things I've talked about in one day. Don't do that. That's literally the biggest way. It's literally the biggest way to fail. So, small changes every day. And, when you feel that you can manage another change, incorporate it, into your lifestyle. But yeah, don't do everything at once.
Perfect. And can you just let everyone know where they can find you and if you've got something new on the horizon as well?
You can all find me at www.venushealthacademy.com. The academy is undergoing a facelift, which will include a community for various aspects of holistic health and healing, everything from sound healing, CDS, MMS, and I am also really, really interested in the new quantum technologies that are coming up. So there will be information on those on the website. And I'm really interested and re-engaging with my humanitarian projects. And so there will be a section on there for humanitarian projects. If anybody out there is interested in getting involved in any form of health humanitarian projects, or even if you have a health humanitarian project that you want to talk about and share with other people and find the resources to help you with your project, then that facility will be there as well. I'm also on social media, and I don't know how long that's going to last. Who knows what's happening there, but you can find me on Facebook, Venus Health Academy, and also on YouTube, Venus Health Academy, Twitter, Venus Health 6, something like that. Twitter blocked my account. So I had to set up a new account. And I don't really use Twitter that much, so it would be pointless really contacting me on Twitter. You can contact me on my website. There is a little interactive contact form there that you can just kind of fill out, and I will get people's messages through that in the meantime.
Perfect. Well, thank you for our round 2 conversation. It's been fascinating as always. Thank you. Thank you, Helen, and thank you for listening. You can find out more about me on my website, carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaewhittick.com, on Facebook, Carol May Whittick, and on Instagram and Twitter, Casmic, CAZMICK. Until the next episode, stay strong.